You got anything?
Oh. That's funny.
That's an auspicious start.
That is, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Even you're right about the hairpin. I mean, that is. I gotta stay on my toes here.
You really do. You really do. Because when the red light goes on,
you're supposed to.
I need you to dance, monkey.
That's the camera that is looking at you. Turn and smile.
Was that Michelle Bachmann? Was that her? She did that whole press release where the whole Republican response to the. Do you know what I'm talking about? To the debate or to the State of the Union?
We had a debate, and I know that there was a. Oh no! Yeah,
it was a response to the State of the Union where she did the whole her own response off, and she was looked at the wrong camera. Brilliant.
Well, she is.
That is the lamestream media right there. Can we talk about Vancouver?
Yeah,
people.
I was pretty dejected myself last night, and I hadn't watched a single hockey game all year long.
Is it because you are not naturally a Bruins fan? Is that what I hear?
I just have friends in Vancouver, and I thought, and a couple that I follow on Twitter on occasion, who I knew had a lot riding on this. And so I watched the game last night, hoping for a Vancouver win, and I like the city of Vancouver. But then this morning I was watching the news, and some bad things happened after the Canucks lost 4-0.
What happened in Vancouver? Vancouver, which I think we need to go back just a little bit. Vancouver, my initial impression of Vancouver, having only spent a little bit of time there years ago, I thought Vancouver was the city of peace and love and the stew of various different cultural and racial backgrounds, and it was just a really sort of beautiful Canadian rainbow palace.
Yeah, it is really what I think, on a sunny day anyway, is the most beautiful city on the planet.
And then you and I go to Vancouver and get molested.
Did we?
Remember, we were robbed?
Robbed in Vancouver? I don't recall.
Are you kidding me?
No.
When we had all our laptops stolen out of the trunk of the car?
Wow, I put that one into a dark corner of my mind.
Were you not there? I thought you and I were in Vancouver together. Well, then let me tell you the story. Then this will mean more to you.
No, I think I was there, and I think I did push that into a dark corner of my mind. Well, I think I was there with you, actually.
It was a horrible thing where
I do remember that
the trunk got
you caught me there,
opened, and all of our stuff got
I
stolen.
do remember that.
I thought
you are right.
I just remember going through dumpsters and looking for stuff. Lost everything in the parking lot of a restaurant. So I think the city actually has a seedy underbelly. This is a city that is not unlike Salt Lake City, sort of the minister's daughter.
Right.
I always compare them to them.
However, I would say, a glaring difference between Salt Lake and Vancouver is Vancouver was just rated one of the top places to live in the entire world.
Salt Lake City has not yet been in the running.
That distinction, yeah. Vancouver was. Did you see that? I think there was a couple of Canadian cities, and then pretty much every metropolitan area in Australia and in New Zealand were rated the top, and I think a couple of Scandinavian cities, top quality of life. All things considered. But no, I have experienced some weird situations in Vancouver, and I do have a little bit of firsthand experience about how things go when you're in kind of a big public festival. I went once to the International Fireworks Festival in down on the waterfront late at night, and my walk back to the transit center from that got really hairy.
What do you mean, hairy? What does that look like?
Like I saw people get cut on the street. I watched somebody actually get cut, like a knife, and I saw people have broken bottles, like broken over their head, coming out of bars.
You are kidding.
No, I'm not joking.
Because I sort of have this impression, like if that happens in Vancouver, they're likely using breakaway stunt bottles. But they're not. They use real glass up there, is what you're saying.
Things do sort of happen in in parts of the town. So, it's anyway, I've sort of, you're not super shocked when a crowd gets drunk and slightly unruly in Vancouver, but this was nuts. And the thing is, I've been thinking all week about this Facebook recognition thing, the Facebook face recognition. It's hard to actually say that. You read it, but to say it. Anyway, and I know it's a very controversial issue and people are like, oh my gosh. And then this morning I went to the Vancouver Sun to get more detail on this, the riots that occurred after the loss. And one of the links on Vancouver Sun is to somebody has started this Facebook page about the purpose is to post pictures from the riots and identify people, if you know them, to sort of help. Because there's looting. I mean, people were breaking into stores, running out with purses. There were people setting cop cars on fire, turning cars over in the streets, pretty serious crimes. And there were lots of cameras around.
Oh, yes.
Mostly smartphones, but lots of also nice cameras and security cameras, because this is a city also that, speaking of security cameras, just hosted the 2010 Winter Olympics. So lots of security.
These people know how to do security footage.
Well, security footage, yes. Security, it didn't quite look like they knew how to do that last night, although I'm sure they do know how to and have plans.
They have no idea how to actually handle the turmoil.
Awry last night.
God, can they document it?
But it's so fascinating to go through these pages on this face, and it's got like 30,000 fans already, and this can only be like hours old. But yeah, the stuff that's popping up, and people are doing screenshots of people they know, I guess, who are on Facebook and who probably were still in their drunken high testosterone state, posting pictures on their own Facebook page, incriminating themselves. So those have been sort of screen captured and this kind of go from thinking, wow, my own privacy, boy, this Facebook, whatever, face recognition. Again, it is hard to say. You're gonna have to try it, but boy, that's such a it's so incriminating. And then something like this happens, and you think, but then again, those hoodlums should be in jail.
Oh, you just sounded like my grandpa.
I know.
When did the hoodlums become a part of your?
Just because of the reading I was doing and the other people calling them hoodlums.
They're hoodlums, They're gadabouts.
Just kids. These are just thugs. These are This is not our city. This is a disgrace. It's a little sad to read, actually. I mean,
it is really sad to read, especially when you see the cars like on fire. I mean, I don't even know how to say this. I don't think it's derogatory when I say that this response to the loss of a hockey game in Canada is predictable for me. Like, if you'd asked me before this happened, oh man, what do you think would happen if the Canada lost the cup? I'd say, oh man, there'd probably be rioting in the streets. You know what I'm saying?
And part of your prediction could be, well, no, wait a minute. To predict this, what happened the last time Canada or Vancouver lost the Stanley Cup? Well, that was 1994, and the exact same thing happened. But last time, Facebook was not a player. And this time, poor Brock Anton. Yeah, wow. That kid. Today is a hangover like no other for that young man.
Dumbass. I'm sorry. He is a dumbass. Brock Anton is a trending topic on Twitter.
Oh.
He posted on his Facebook page, this is a quote, "Maced in the face, hit with a baton, tear-gassed twice, 6 broken fingers, blood everywhere, punched a fucking pig in the head with riot gear on, knocked him to the ground, threw the jersey on a burning cop car, flipped some cars, burnt some smart cars, burnt some cop cars. I'm on the news. One word, history, smiley face, big smiley face." Apparently, Brock Anton likes his own post, and so does his friend Tyrone Gallant. And Ashley Pahota with the punchline, Brock, KKKKKK at the end of Brock, take this down. It's evidence.
I know, that's a sweet girl to remind him.
She is. She's very sweet to kind of insinuate herself into the story that way. So that's kind of a big deal, right? I mean, that they're using I mean, you say, okay, this wraps into so many stories and things that have gone on this week. Because have you seen Google's announcement of me on the web? That just hit, I think, this morning. So there's a new tool. If you go to your Google dashboard, you know the Google dashboard?
Sure. Sorry, I'm just writing down Google Me. Okay, wow, I'm going to go to it.
Okay, so you go to you just go to Google dashboard, to your dashboard, right? And your dashboard, your Google dashboard is when you log in with your Google account or your Gmail account, it is the service that gives you the kind of snapshot of how you use all the Google products, right? So all your purchases on checkout, all of your blogs on Blogger, all of your, everything you use on Google, you get this one kind of overall snapshot or dashboard of all your use of Google products. So it's very handy, and they launched this new bit right between, right above analytics, I think, where you can see you on the web, and it actually links to a couple of posts in the Google support database that talk about what to do if you find information that is incorrect or slanderous about you on the web, and how you can go about managing that and removing that information.
Look at that. Yes. Look at that.
Much of it, if you read it, is, sort of abdicates responsibility. It says Google does not own the internet. Google has no control over what is posted on the internet. So here are the steps you need to take to manage your own information. Make sure if it's, if you have pictures posted in public places, make sure you understand what privacy settings are. We don't control that. Make sure you only post stuff that you want representing you and your reputation. We don't control that. If somebody else posts things about you, contact them or their website. We don't control that. And so there's a lot of we don't do that. But where we do things, here's where we're going to help you do that. And so it's sort of a tutorial of how to manage your own privacy and your own information on the web, and it shows all the inbound and outbound links. And you can actually use, I think, fueled by Google Alerts service, you can actually set up email alerts that will email you when your name is mentioned, in association with you in your profile anywhere on the web. So, if somebody says something crummy about me, it'll send me an email. And I wonder if poor Brock Anton has, if this was a day late and a dollar short for a guy like Brock, because
I doubt it. I don't think he would have been paying attention. But no.
Well, it's just a fascinating kind of evolution of the tool, because, what it says to me is that, what we as a culture really don't get this stuff. Right? I mean, there's a sort of a cultural immunity to awareness of privacy. We have this gut response to things when we say, I want my private life private, and then we post things like Brock did on Facebook in a place that ended up being very, very public.
Or a name I hope we've heard, I hope we'll hear far less of, Mr. Wiener. Because that story's gotten really old. But you put that with the Facebook thing, and okay, so now this. But there have been several different stories. I know there was an NPR discussion the other day that I was listening to, and there's certain people they're having this conversation about. Well, gosh, what is this? Is this an invasion of privacy? Is this sort of the end of our, digital innocence, or is this more, whatever? This is going to make us less safe. And these, so there were two people talking that were just very, I think, kind of self-righteous about, well, I mean, why would you even post pictures of yourself in the first place? And why would you post pictures of your children and, let alone, post pictures of yourself in your underwear and send them to co-eds in, Seattle? But, why would you post anything? Well, why?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, people have an impulse to share, and people have an impulse to have this sort of level of fame among their 300 friends or whatever. You know what I mean? You want a certain level of exposure. You want a certain level of connectivity.
I think it goes even beyond that. It's because we are, at our very root, we are tribal people. And that's the problem. Because before technology, our tribes were all around us. And we would have our neighborhoods, and we would have our block parties, and we would have our schools, and we would have work. And people are naturally social. And what we're seeing right now is the confluence of events of that sort of genetic makeup, and all of us trying to understand how technology affects that. And I don't think people get it yet. It's not sort of why. Maybe my kids will get it. Maybe your kids are the generation that will wake up and have that sort of deep-seated kind of genetic sense of what it means to be private and public. They will be, I think by their very nature, far more public than we are. But this was actually another NPR discussion. But there was one on Science Friday a couple weeks ago that the guest was sort of offering up alternatives to Facebook essentially, and was talking about things like Path, I guess the photo sharing site where you select, I think, up to 30 of your friends. Yeah, 50. You get 50 friends, and that becomes your whole network. If you want to add more than that, you have to take somebody off. It's like speed dial for sharing pictures.
So there was this whole and that was one of, I think, several that were discussed, and a few that I still intend to kind of look at just because I was a little curious. There was one I thought was actually really interesting was like, say you're at a concert and you take a picture and it geotags because you're on your iPhone, and let's say 30 other people did the same. When you post to this particular social photo sharing site, it will link all of those 30 people together essentially, right, so that event, if you want to look at that event, you don't have to know any of those other people. And it sounds really cool. And then the guest was reminding the host, but it only works if everybody's on that sharing site. And, Path, I guess, only works if you really don't want, you really are really that selective, and that's all you really want. So here's the thing, I guess, that I'm getting at. And Facebook, another story this past couple weeks, they've lost 6 million users in the U.S. this past year. And people are asking why, sort of publicly, well, why would that be? And so that, I think it always sort of snowballs, and the pendulum seems to sort of swing between Facebook's growing and it's awesome and it's, it connects people and it's, whatever. And then on the other side, Facebook is awful. And, the average, 19-year-old has 800 plus friends, and the average 50 plus year old has 20 friends. And, what does that say about, this younger generation, as you said, and their march towards, using social media, and then how do they either accept a certain lack of privacy or figure out ways to create privacy, or how does this play out? Do people start to adopt things like Path, which I know you don't see happening anytime soon, or do people just find ways to, again, sort of balance the acceptance of the exposure you have with things like Facebook, and maybe use certain privacy settings that show some intelligence about how to use the tool?
Yeah. And that, I think, gets to the root of it, right? Is that we don't yet have that sort of genetic intelligence of how to use these tools. These tools are not sort of intuitive. The usability may be intuitive. We strive for developing tools that are intuitive to use, but we don't really have it in our fingertips yet, I think. And people click yes, and I agree an awful lot, and that becomes sort of the challenge. The facial recognition thing on Facebook, well, there are two things you said that I want to make sure I just sort of jump in on. The first is the loss of 16, I say loss in kind of quotes, of 6 million users in the U.S. I think, that data came from sort of extrapolated data from the inside Facebook fan site, right? The website that tracks Facebook data based on sort of aggregate advertising unit response. not from Facebook itself.
Right. Yeah. Not a public announcement by them.
Right. And the public announcement from Facebook was, you're getting, we know this. It happens all the time. We get the fluctuations coming from these third-party sites. This is not, that should not be construed as official data. There are so many things that go into, what these people are doing. That what really they're talking about is not a loss of accounts, right? It's not 6 million people that have said, I quit Facebook. That is not the story. It is a delta change in the number of people who have logged into Facebook in the last month, right? So what they're extrapolating that by saying, 6 million people have quit Facebook in the U.S. And really what that says is 6 million people were busy with final exams or, whatever, and just didn't get around to Facebook. And maybe that is a correlative kind of data point. Maybe not. And we sort of have to see over the next 3 or 4 months, how does that actually shake out? Are those people really not using Facebook after 90 days? Then maybe we can say, Facebook is showing a decline. Otherwise, I just think it's too soon to tell. With a data point like that, it's just, I don't know. I don't think it means anything yet. Does that make sense?
And yes, it does. And I think it obviously it points to how quick people are to sort of jump on sort of a punditry, about any movement at all on Facebook, because I think there's a whole segment of even say the technology media that are still trying to determine what it is this means. I mean, anything that grows and that grows that fast, but also seems to have some sort of relative impact, either an impact on or a reflection of social behaviors that appear to be evolving rapidly. It's hard to make immediate sense of. And so, I think you look for little things like that, little changes or blips or whatever and then they sort of get talked about to death, I guess. And I don't know. I just don't think anybody's a real expert on how, in fact, or if, I guess, we've changed in any dramatic way in terms of our social behavior relative to these tools, or what's been the influence and what does it mean, and so like that one I threw out a bit ago where you say, because on the one hand, one of the highest growth demographics on Facebook is women over 50, and so then when you point to the average 19-year-old female and the average 50-year-old female, how many friends on average do they have? And that the number is so dramatically different, I think people want to sort of throw that out there and say, therefore, people are dramatically different. Generations are dramatically different. Generations communicate in dramatically different ways. Is that really true? You know what I mean? I don't know that. I just think that there's just this anecdotal evidence, and what does it mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the. That's kind of the nut of it. We don't know, and there are a lot of people who want to know, and it seems like the people who are the most sort of instantly inclined to jump on those headlines are the more vocal detractors of Facebook. Oh my God, 6 million people quit Facebook last month. See, I was right.
And the people who I think are maybe we're not hearing from quite as much, but who are paying as close, if not closer attention than anybody else, are the advertisers.
Yeah.
That are, and how you Groupon, another fast mover, what's the impact in the advertising landscape on its share of the ad dollars, and how does that affect the rest of the media landscape? Or again, Facebook, how much year over year are ad budgets, sort of being siphoned off into these new players, and what does it mean to other more traditional media? And that's maybe why when you're watching traditional media, it's the detractors that show up so loudly. I don't know. That sounds a little conspiratorial, but but you wonder.
Totally wonder. God, there was something else I wanted to talk about that was only loosely related to this.
Well, very loosely related I can think of that I think is very interesting is the Apple store. Now I can't remember his name, but the guy it was
Ron Johnson.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's his brainchild per se, but he came in from Target to really help launch what has become one of the most successful retail concepts in history, is now going to JCPenney, which is, of course, a perfect logical leap.
Well, all right. I think it is
this
if
is
you
not
take
the one you're
Apple.
digging for,
No.
yes?
I think it is a total logical leap if you take Apple out of the picture. Like, you cannot be sarcastic and say that sentence if Apple is not in the picture. But there are two things that make you have to sort of think through that jump. Number one is, he's a retail guy. He's not a computer guy first and foremost. He's a guy who knows how to help people get inspired by the products that they're seeing, whether they're Apple computers or iPhones or iPads or clothes and jewelry and things like that, right? But the second one is he's not going to JCPenney to run their retail operation. He's going to run the company, right, as CEO and chief executive. And I mean, talk about a dude who is passionate about the move. He bought with his own funds a lot of stock in this thing, like tens of millions of dollars as part of the deal to be. It's almost as if he had to pay them so that he could be CEO.
What I thought you were about to say is he was so passionate about this move that he used his own funds to buy an entire JCPenney wardrobe and is now wearing it. But that's not.
And had to buy a new house because he had so much clothes out of it.
He is. I have fun memories of JCPenney growing up, but have not been there in a long time. And I got to say,
maybe you will, because all the displays will be
maybe
glass.
Maybe I will. Because
wait till you see a JCPenney made entirely out of glass in downtown New York City.
An iconic.
It will be an iconic JCPenney in the Washington Square Mall in Portland, Oregon. Yes. I cannot wait to see it right next to Orange Julius, and it will stand up well next to Linens and Things.
But I got to tell you, so the
B.
fact that
Daltons.
it's made this,
thank God it made it past the B. Daltons era.
I know there's a cemetery of retail that
there is, and I feel like we could you should come here and we'll go to JCPenney's together, a new and improved JCPenney's, and then we could go to Chevy's.
I think there are people who thought JCPenney's maybe no longer existed.
I think there are. I was one of them.
Because you never know,
you
right?
can be a CEO of a company that's gone? That's awesome.
But here's what I like. I like the fact that this move has sort of reinvigorated some of the stories about the birth of the Apple Store retail concept and the ideas behind it, which when you kind of put them all together in summary, there is obviously some sort of special sauce there and maybe kind of a magical recipe, which I think at the end of it is, the key ingredient is the products. And I don't think you could have the Apple Store concept really without the products behind it. But at the same time, when you read things like, as though it's a really novel concept, and I guess it is, to actually control, what apps are on the iPads and what videos and pictures are on the displays when you're looking at things like how does iPhoto work on an iMac if you're new to the Mac and you walk in the store. The fact that Apple would have control over what images are seen there. Well, that at the end of the day is not really like, wow, no one ever could have thought of that before. But I'll tell you, man, a ghost of a store up the road from me is a Shopko. And it's it's kind of a scary, depressing experience every time. I don't know what, it's a huge, huge vacant kind of, it's vacant. It's huge. It's a real store. It's open. You can go in right now, buy things. There's just a handful of employees and a handful of shoppers, and no one's really in control in particular of the sort of the electronics area. It's a disaster, and asking a question about anything no one knows the answer to. And so, I think the leap from a small space like an Apple Store and controlling that experience versus the JCPenney store. And as you say, he's going to be CEO, not to really run all of the details of, the retail experience, but
you have to imagine he's going to have his fingers in it.
Yeah. If they didn't step in and say, well, here's what we found. If you just, have that much more control over the shopper experience and how they feel when they come into the store and what they see, you can sell more products. Right. And the other thing I loved about reading about the Apple Store recently was it's a quote from their manual, the employee manual, I guess, or the sales training manual, whatever, that says, you're not a salesperson, you're like a problem solver. And when customers come in, you're not there to sell them a product, you're there to help them solve a problem. And they may not know what their problem is. You need to help them identify their problem. And so there aren't sales quotas or sales commissions in that regard, but their training is that. And I think how many other businesses could benefit from a shift in their thinking or their sales approach, from pushing a product to solving a problem.
Yeah, no doubt. On that point, you said something a minute ago about Apple and his approach to, would his concept have worked without Apple's products behind it? Right. And I think of that a little bit different way, that what his gift is really is finding the perfect vehicle to display and promote these products. Right, and he did that with Apple's products. I think the Apple retail store concept was something that came out of him looking at Apple's products and saying, "This is something that I think I have a way that will really adequately show off these products." And that gift of being able to sort of step back and look at those products, I think, is what makes him so successful. It's not that he found a model of having tables that glow and no cash registers and applied that to these Apple products, and then Apple products drive it. He looked at those products and found something really unique, like a way to manage. And there are things that don't work about it. There are things when you go in there in these stores that are so crowded, but I have no idea how they could make it any better. When you go in and buy something and the place is just jam-packed with people who want to buy these products, I mean, it sort of works. As pissed off as I get because I have to wait, it really works. And it shows off these products really, really well.
And at any one point during this past recession, if you were really feeling down about the economy,
go to an Apple store.
Just go to an Apple store. And it's like, the economy's maybe not so bad. I don't know.
It's a funny thing. Like the latest updates, I mean, it's really smart. Like I went in for the first time after the latest sort of revision of the Apple Store, where now they have iPads that run all the display units, so you can get more information, and the place was jam-packed. And I thought, this is usually when I would leave. I would go somewhere else to buy whatever I needed. I needed to get a new, case for my iPhone. And so I found my case on the wall, and I grabbed it, and I thought, how am I going to get the blue shirt, the Star Trek kind of red shirt corollary? Somebody in this Apple store is going to die. And so I went over to one of the kiosks, and there's a little thing. It said, page somebody for help right here. And you hit the little button. It says, you want somebody to come get you and help you? I said, yeah, I want somebody to come help me. And I clicked the little button. And it took about 25 seconds. I stood there for about 25 seconds, and somebody came to me and said, what can I help you with? I said, I want to buy this. They took my card, and I was gone. It was,
Walmart has that same thing. Just by the way, go try it there. Yeah, that's a whole different experience when you push that button at the Walmart. I tried that once.
That's funny.
But I think it needs to be said, or at least people. I think it's interesting to remember how risky that whole retail concept really did seem at first, on the heels of the failure of the gateway retail concept.
Yeah.
And CompUSA, I think, was fading fast at the time. It really didn't look like a surefire deal. Like, hey, we'll just open up these, retail stores and sell our products. I mean, Apple was, before they started opening those, it was, the encouragement was to buy it online because, Apple makes the most money there, least overhead that way. And that's the way I bought, my first iMac and several things. And I liked the online, support, and I thought, wow, they've got a real model here. And it reminded me of Gateway, which started that same way. And then Gateway did these retail stores, and then they failed. And then, here's Apple doing these retail stores. But it was the most brilliant thing. And, how much of that was Jobs, how much of it was the products, how much of it was Ron Johnson. It worked, definitely. And it's interesting to watch. And then Microsoft has been maybe are they a year into their stores now?
And I think they're successful. I have no reason to sort of doubt. I mean, people like
I have
Showcase.
I have no idea how those are doing.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking for a long time, and I have one more thing, I think. But have you seen the Lulzsec stuff?
No.
This Lulzsec is the new Anonymous. I think they've just supplanted Anonymous as the most popular hacking group on the planet.
Oh, okay.
Very public. Taking a lot of credit. They brought down the CIA website this morning.
Those guys, yes.
I think the only thing to mention is that they just leaked 62,000 email and password combinations. Sort of an internet goodie bag, Gizmodo is calling it. Just lots of login info for stuff, and it could be yours. So let's see, Sam Biddle writes, fresh off their face kicking of the CIA's website, Lulzsec just decided to go with something a little less political, a 60,000 plus set of login info for they won't say, but they're encouraging everyone to try them out across the web. So far, eager downloaders have been retweeting claimed prizes of pilfered WoW, PayPal, porn, and Gmail accounts. Lulz hasn't said where they got the idea or what it's good for. Instead, they're just encouraging their retinue to be creative instead of being a potato. That's a quote. Be creative instead of being a potato. Try PayPal combinations, Twitter, Facebook, eBay, RuneScape. Pick a target from the list. Pretty much go change your passwords on important stuff.
I changed a few of those recently.
Yeah,
I need to do some more.
Not only change it, but change them often and use different passwords for your most important sites.
And it's annoying, just to throw this out there. I in an effort to kind of make my passwords a little more complex, decided to use Instapass as a way to not have to, remember these more complex passwords. And they got hacked a couple of weeks ago.
Are you kidding?
No, I got a message about Instapass getting hacked.
Ugh, that's annoying.
They're like, well, we don't think they found your key password to our site, but so you're with Instapass, you have one password that sort of controls all your other, and then you can have like a different crazy password for every other site as long as you can remember this one for Instapass. Yeah. But so all your other passwords were exposed.
That is annoying.
Truly.
Well, so that's the deal. Change your passwords, people. Ugh.
That's annoying.
So frustrating.
Darn this technology thing.
God, they're ruining it for everybody. Stop pissing in the pool. Just makes me mad. Tell me you don't agree with me on that.
No, I agree with you. Stop pissing in the pool.
Stop pissing.
Good point.
Okay.
Well said.
Well said.
Punctuation on this show.
I'm finished.
Way to punctuate it.
Are you done?
So done.
It was good talking to you.
It was great. Poor Megan wasn't here again, but we miss her.
Yeah, she can catch up. We'll hear her opinion on this show in December. She'll call us and she'll say, "You guys are tools."
What kind of crappy show was that?
That was a terrible show. They're talking about.
Do I still have to be on this show? Am I still invited? Because it sucks.
Because I hope you disinvite me. Please take it back.
That was funny.
All right. I'll catch you later.
Okay. See you, Pete.
Bye.